Concerned parents started messaging me about a week ago regarding my daughter Evelyn's TikTok videos. The parents were apparently furious, explaining how their own children had seriously injured themselves or nearly died copying her behavior. Both confusion and horror drove me to click the links to her account, though I wish more than anything that I hadn't. I let out a horrified gasp as I watched Evelyn, caked in makeup and wearing a far too revealing outfit, perform challenges that other girls her age, and younger apparently, had been copying. She'd smile her perfect teeth through cherry red lipstick and bop left and right to some popular song as she enacted these trends she was apparently starting. The first one chilled my blood. Evelyn bobbed her head back and forth while plugging a phone charger into an outlet in an overly dramatic manner. My heart sped as I watched her continue to film herself from inside what appeared to be a bathroom. The image of her face suddenly warped and shifted, and I realized then that the camera was filming from within the water of a bathtub. On the bottom of the image was the hashtag liquid selfie. My heart pounded as I clicked other links that had been directed my way as if I was somehow to blame. The next was even more disturbing. Evelyn performed a sultry dance of sorts in a crop top before placing the phone down on a surface. She then danced back from the camera, revealing a short skirt and fishnet stockings. I watched in horror as she then dragged into frame a wooden chair with a large kitchen knife, heavily ducked, tapped to the front edge, blade up. I swallowed the lump that grew in my throat as I watched Evelyn hold her hands over her head before arching backward into a backbend over the knife. The blade's tip was mere centimeters from her spine, and she nearly slipped before laughing into the camera, finishing with a handstand and clearing the dangerous obstacle. 1.2 million was on the bottom right of the screen under a heart icon, and I felt sweat trickle down my forehead when I realized what that meant. 1.2 million likes. 59.5 thousand shares. At the bottom of this particular clip was the hashtag bladed backbend. I clicked on the profile icon of my dolled-up, smiling daughter, and my jaw dropped open. There were almost a dozen different trends she apparently had been proliferating throughout the internet in the past week and a half. In every one, she was scantily clad and smiling as she performed each terribly dangerous feat. I made the mistake of clicking the comments section of one. There were hundreds of messages from people who were all clearly impressed and inspired, adoring Evelyn and the dangerous actions performed in her videos. Many replies were videos of other users who'd copied the challenges and mimicked her routines. I didn't have the heart to click on those. The girls that seemed to all be inspired by her and copying her actions looked young and naive. It broke my heart. I glanced through a few more, clenching my jaw at the sight of each of the shocking and extremely dangerous challenges Evelyn was broadcasting to the world. In one short video, she'd propped up the phone on the edge of a rooftop and danced her way backward until her entire body, dressed in a low-cut romper, was in view. I could tell she was a few stories high, the city's skyscrapers visible in the background. I felt a queasiness in my stomach as I watched my daughter walk backward 5 paces, then proceed to do a series of cartwheels towards the camera, less than an inch from the edge. 500 tank likes, 21.8 shares. My mind jumped to all those young, influential girls who looked to Evelyn as some sort of role model. Evelyn all dressed up, smiling and dancing as she flirted with disaster in a series of deadly performances that seemed to be spreading across the internet like wildfire. Eventually, I closed the app and deleted it from my phone. I'd seen enough. I will not share her username for others to discover her account. I want those posts to get as little exposure as possible, though it seems too late as her followers are in the hundreds of thousands. There are extremely dangerous trends making the rounds on TikTok, and if you have a child, I'd strongly advise monitoring their activity. I've tried contacting their customer support to take down her account, but have had no luck so far. Aside from that, there's nothing we can do. I trembled with pain and sadness when I learned about these dangerous and impossible posts. The threat to the safety of others is horrific, to say the least, but not as horrific as the reality of the situation I'm now witnessing. My wife and I have already been devastated with grief, so it's almost too much to bear. The fact of the matter is Evelyn died in a car accident back in April. These disturbing posts on her account began just a week and a half ago, nearly 2 months after her death. For those of you who don't watch TikTok, there's been a trend going around with some creepy doppelganger videos. The video usually starts with a person doing something normal, with an audio that says something like, "If you see another person that looks identical to you, run away and hide." Then it'll cut to a creepy duplicate of said person, usually peeking from a closet or around the corner. I don't really make videos that often, but this looked like a trend I'd have a little bit of fun with, so about a week ago I made my own video. My friends and I were having a couple drinks while one of them helped me film the duplicate part. We all laughed a little bit about the end part and how creepy I looked, but something about it unsettled me a little bit more than it should have. I just had this pit in my gut, an overwhelming sense of dread that made me nauseous. The night eventually ended, and my friends went home for the night. I took my dog out one last time and then laid down for bed and turned my TV on for background noise. I tossed and turned for a while, still a bit on edge, but I eventually dozed off to a random King of the Hill episode. I woke up to static coming from my TV. I shifted my eyes to look at the time. 3:06 a.m. The bright alarm clock beamed. I heard my closet door slowly creak open. My eyes darted toward the door and my body and limbs trembled in fear, but were unable to move. I watched in horror as I saw a hand begin to creep out from the closet and wrapped itself around the doorframe. My heart began beating faster, and my breathing became rapid. The creature slowly started crawling from its hiding space. The light from the TV illuminated a wide, toothy grin as the face came more into focus. To my horror, the person hiding in my closet was a duplicate version of me. Except she had dark circles under her eyes, and a smile too wide to be human. Her eyes were glassy and dead. There was also something off about her, something dark. She stood at the foot of my bed, just smiling and staring down at me. She waved at me, and at that moment, I shot up in bed, pouring sweat and gasping for air. My duplicate no longer there. My dog whined and licked my face to try to calm me, but even with her there, I didn't feel safe. I told myself it was just sleep paralysis, but I was still disturbed. I tried to go about my day as best as I could. The next morning, however, I couldn't explain what I found. I walked into the kitchen to grab some breakfast and saw a note on the counter in my handwriting. It read, "I will replace you. I am the better you," over and over again. I was terrified. No, I still am terrified. No, I still am terrified because I couldn't recall writing anything like that. I called my friend and she tried to reassure me that I was just a little freaked out because of the nightmare I had and that maybe I had written the note half asleep and just didn't remember it. It didn't really help. In fact, it made me feel like I was losing my mind, and maybe I am, but something happened a couple nights ago that made me get a hotel. I awoke to a loud crash coming from inside my house. My dog was barking and growling like crazy, so I grabbed the baseball bat from my closet that I keep for just in case and began tiptoeing down the hallway. I flipped the light switch, but the light wouldn't come on. I peered down the hall as my eyes adjusted to the darkness. In the dim moonlight streaming in from the window, I could see my utility closet at the end of the hallway was open. My blood turned to ice as I called out into the dark. If anyone's in here, just know I'm calling the police," I stammered out. I heard a small chuckle come from the closet, and then a voice. My voice called my dog's name, and I watched in shock as my dog darted out from behind me and stopped in front of the door, her body tense with fear as she let out a low growl. "Nyla, no," I screamed, but I was too late. A pair of arms reached out from the closet and grabbed Nyla, pulling her into the closet. The door slammed shut as she yelped. I sprinted toward the door and frantically tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. I turned to run and grab my phone to call 911, and I heard the door swing open behind me. Out walked my husky, seemingly unharmed. I rushed toward the closet and pulled the cord for the light, but the closet was empty, except for the hayvac and water heater. I didn't want to stay in that house any longer, so I grabbed a few things in Nyla and checked into a hotel nearby, where I've been staying since. I don't know what to do. I can't go back to that house by myself, and Nyla hasn't been acting right. She's been growling at me, and even bit my arm the other day, and I had to get stitches. I don't understand. She's never been aggressive before. It's like it's not her anymore. I took her to the vet yesterday, and they said she's physically in perfect condition, but there's something not quite right about her eyes. It's like she's staring straight through me. My son had started off as a good child, and I don't know what happened. For context, I am a single parent, as his dad had passed when he was very young. I figure no father figure helped contribute to his downfall. My son is a 10th grader currently. His friends are mischievous to say the least. They aren't in a gang or anything like that, but they are heavy troublemakers. For instance, they egged the house of a teacher they didn't like and got into a fight with another group. I always tried to discipline him, but he would either ignore me or insult me. I don't have the money to pay for something like a therapist. Everything went bad when he came back to school one day. He said, "Mom, look at this," and he pulled his school soap dispenser out of his backpack. He told me this was called a devious lick. I asked where he'd gotten it, and he said the school. I was angry, as I was taught by my parents to never damage or steal school property or anyone's property. I told him that I was very angry and that I would tell the principal administrators and that I would forbid him from hanging out with his friends. I made sure to say this in a very assertive tone to assure him that I wasn't joking around. He went ballistic. My sweet child, who I always thought was kind and caring, went ballistic. He called me the ops and said he would violently attack me and threatened he would even kill me. He ran out the door quickly after pushing me on the floor. I had never seen him after that. I was worried sick and kept asking around the city and the school employees, who said he didn't attend class. However, one potential link that was found was a teacher who had also gone missing the same day. It was the same teacher who had his house egged by my boy and his friends, who had also gone missing. About a week after he had gone missing, the worst I had assumed had come true. The police came to my door and asked me if they could show me a video and identify if my son is in it. He showed to me, and my life would never be the same. The video was in some unknown rundown building. There was very poor audio, among which I heard much expletives. Then the camera cut to my son holding a knife. Then, to my absolute horror, the missing teacher who looked as if he was passed out or even worse, dead. Then I heard among the laughing and cursing, "Get the fucking heart out already," while my son approached the teacher. He then proceeded to cut open the teacher gruesomely, blood everywhere. He searched through his organs and pulled out his heart. My son turned to the camera and said, "Just hit the biggest lick," and began laughing menacingly, along with his friends. I couldn't stop crying seeing my only child become a monster. I told the police it was him, and they told me they found that video along with the teacher's body in a rundown apartment. My child has likely fled far from here, and even if he is caught, I will never see him again unless it is behind bars. All because of this TikTok trend.